So articulating your thoughts when you're trying to work out why all these crazy things seem to be, all these conspiracy theories once thought ridiculous appear to be not being ridiculous and in fact facts. Now, it's bizarre to me that you can pay taxes, your families pay taxes for their lives, and supposedly you're supposed to receive the benefits that a lot do with that. But you'd expect also that the information you've paid for them to collect via whatever means they do it, the CIA in America perhaps, or whatever, what right do they have to not disclose the information they found while searching, but when paid by you to do so, about information that as a human being you deserve to know, considering you paid for it. Now, like, there are so many conspiracies, and and as crazy as they sound, the first one that is probably the craziest of all, but it's really hard to prove that it's not actually correct the way it is, and from when it was decided that the Earth was a globe, the 1500s or something, and previous to that, for however long existences of beings have been around, and it looks like by all the structures that have been exposed, the pyramids, the different types of structures in different places, and there's so many and so much evidence that there was technology in so many ways that was far more advanced than we got now in different ways, like excavation, and maybe like bringing them all into line, because they're all crazy, like all individually, but because why would anyone want to enslave humans and lie to them, and for what purpose, if they had the means and ways to just get rid of them, which is possible, if you're in power and have been in power for a long time. There must be a reason why it hasn't happened, even though the ability to do so is probably has happened before, but it's definitely available. So the only conclusion, and and don't get me wrong, I haven't been I believed in the globe and so much more like everyone else did, but when the COVID vaccine stuff came out, and I looked into it, and I'm not satisfied that it was possible, and proved to be not a good thing. Well, that got me sort of looking at all the other bits and pieces, and like TikTok, which everyone was saying was a Chinese app that was going to steal information, hack you, and all, etc., etc. But it's the place where initially I found, obviously there's fictitious stuff on every in every place, and especially when you find out how corrupt the media are worldwide, globally, and narrative making they are. TikTok, there was evidence of things that I'd never heard about. There's things that look like mountains, but the materials of that mountain are exactly what the materials of a tree are or become, and they're gigantic and they're huge and they've been cut level. That's crazy. And if there was a time where you couldn't speak and everything was known once prior to us, how would you get that information out there if you didn't want to be part of it and didn't want to get killed? Perhaps write a poem, Jack and the Beanstalk, those sort of things, and that's what seems to happen. Like, it's not that the stories come because of the fairy tales and or stories. It's perhaps the ways and means of getting it out there, much like how the Bible, I suppose, is written, and the evidence is in the Bible, the ways that it's been given to us with pieces missing of it, Like I haven't read the Bible, but I was brought up a Catholic a little bit, which meant I just had to go to church with Mum and listen to what I thought was the same stuff all the time. Didn't do anything for me, and in fact drove me. It didn't make sense, you know. But anyway, it's on that. But I'm going back, reverting to there must have been a creator because everything else is nonsense. The moon landing was nonsense. Space is nonsense. The light and water, and then the evidence of all the space travel and etc. And all the frauds and fakes that NASA had been caught out doing. Green screens and just the size of the Earth from on the International Space Station, which is impossible because they're only 400 miles away. The blue sky around the moon you see in the daytime when it should be in space. It's just all little things, and all the explanations are mathematical conundrums that, sure, you can perhaps make a mathematical equation to get a result of some type, and ambiguous as it may be, and that's all they ever do with everything. The spinning Earth is now the spinning Earth and the spinning atmosphere that keeps up with the Earth in every way. So you can't tell that. So you can't just go in the air, wait for the Earth to spin and land in a different place. After when the Earth's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, you'd think you just go straight up in a helicopter and the Earth would spin. You'd come back down, you'd be 1,000 miles away. That's how a spinning globe would work. But the spinning atmosphere, that means unless there was a firmament, which there is, but in their example, there's space up until like air or air, what we breathe, and the atmosphere up until the point which isn't defined really, where it becomes space, and there's nothing in between our atmosphere and space apart from some fields according to them, or like who knows. Nothing's getting sucked out. Like when all the atmosphere is constant, so it's not changing, even though we're spinning and whipping through space, and yet the atmosphere is spinning like we are at 1,000 miles an hour, without it becoming the speed of the wind as it gets further away from the circle of the Earth. Means that the atmosphere is going further than the Earth is, spinning, and the higher up you get above the ground, the wind speed or the speed the atmosphere would have to go would, we just look at a 400-meter running race, and between inside lane and outside lane there's a 56-meter odd, something like that, sort of start because of the shorter distance the inside lane takes. And that's just over one lap, and it's eight lanes, which is about 8 meters or something like that. It's 56 meters, so around a 24,000 mile in circumference ball, every meter above ground, the wind speed would surely have to increase at an unfathomable. You'd think, if you're thinking just common sense was, like, how could it not? If that's what it had to do, if the atmosphere had to be the same, like there's no wind. I can't fly a kite today. If I get somehow someone drops a kite 100 meters off the ground, there's no wind, it's dropped to the ground. So it couldn't do that. If it just does not make sense. I mean, that's one thing of so many. The distance the sun warmth has to travel. How many? 70 million, 90 million miles or something like that. That's insane. That is insane. And then the sunlight comes through a cloud, and you see it spreading, like the angle's pointing back to a place that cannot be that far away. Like impossible to be 90 million miles away, or how many, whatever the ridiculous number they made up is. That heat going across in every direction at the same rate, supposedly from the sun. So it's not just where we are, it's heating the whole universe at the same rate. And that's a lot of energy being sucked up for billions of years, apparently, every minute. These things just don't make sense. The moon and the sun size being exactly the same, when the moon supposedly is only 400,000 kilometers away, which is long enough, but we can see the moon clearly without a telescope. We can see it, and yet our vision supposedly only lets us see 3 miles or something like that. everything is it's crazy. Like it doesn't make common sense, you know. And yet they make these amazing mathematical equations to explain it. And yet, like the Hubble taking these close-up photos of all these amazing stars, galaxies, and eons away, like just distances that are incomprehensible, and they're clear photos, you know, of stars being formed and all this stuff. And yet NASA admits that every picture of the blue marble Earth is not a 100% real photograph, because they couldn't do that. It's CGI, and it had to be, according to the guy who made the blue marble picture that was used in the Apple iPhone. But he's from NASA. He's on YouTube and says that. I mean, that doesn't make sense. They couldn't spin the Hubble, which is taking photos of all these different things, so it obviously can direct its focus anywhere. It can't just be in one direction seeing all these different things. You know, that doesn't make sense. Spin that thing around and like snap pictures. I mean, surely it would be designed to be able to do that if it was, you know, because it's all fiction, so it has to be. You know, like if you think about it. But okay, but getting back to the point is the reason, like who, you know, all I could come up with in my mind, if I was making a movie or something, was that a group of people found out all the secrets through the information gathered up, like in a generation before us, like our people are doing now. They've got all this information, and you know, they found out about the vibration and the light and creation, sort of how things happen. But where it come from and how it's used, and maybe the group of people thought they had everything they needed to carry on forever, and without other groups on this planet they didn't like. So everyone else got wiped out, perhaps, or bar a few, or whatever, perhaps. And then they realised they couldn't have eternity and bliss without the one thing that they maybe think they know how to get. And the way they get it is if it's given to them, perhaps. I mean, it's just a crazy thought. But everything's crazy. So it appears that your soul, which is what makes you, I think, because otherwise it's just a creature eating, shitting, sleeping, and repeating, you know, for no reason. I mean, that's what they drummed into us. Big bang, live a life, and that's it. It's over. But that doesn't make sense. That didn't make sense to me. Nothing makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense, like when you look out to the sea in all directions, everything is perfectly level. Put a level on it, and it shows no signs left or right of dropping at either end. Like, I don't know how far you can see left or right when you're in the middle of the ocean, if you're looking completely all the way around, but when you do, the whole ocean you see, 360 degrees, has not got any loss of levelness. It's level everywhere, and that's you know, if it's 1% of the ocean or 0.5% of the ocean, and you know, that you see if you're 360 degrees in every direction with a telescope or whatever you're using, how could that not show curvature? You know, you think about it. Let's say you're on a ball and you're standing at the top of it at 12 o'clock, and that's your Earth, and you know, as an example of your Earth, and they tell you that it's 8,000 miles if you went through the middle straight down to the bottom of it and came out the other side. That's an 8,000 mile trip. And if you go around it to the other side, if you walk around the outside of your circle and you end up in that point directly opposite where you started, that's a 12,000 mile journey. Okay, so if you think about it logically, that means you walk around from standing vertically up, you head up in the air, and walk 12,000 miles around a ball, and now you're upside down, but you don't notice it, and never did on the journey. Your feet are you're in the opposite. Your head's pointing that 180 degrees away from the head on the other side of your ball, right? That 12,000 mile journey. So you've got the distance between where you were and where you are. That's 8,000 miles. Now you have to, as you're walking around, you have to be dropping in elevation, because you've to main, to cover that distance of vertical drop down to between the 2 points. That between the 2 planes of where you were standing and where you become standing. It's 8,000 miles, and that has to be traversed, has to be covered. And you, by going around the 12,000 miles, you cover it. That means 12,000 miles around and 8,000 miles down. How is a curvature of 8 inches per mile squared going to cover that? Like, it doesn't. It has to be, for every 3 miles around, you have to be gaining 2 miles towards your destination. So there's 2 miles below the plane of where you started after 3 miles of walking. So if you're 3 miles away from where you started and you're 2 miles below where you started, you're not going to see much of where you were standing, are you? Or that person that's looking directly on a level point straight out isn't going to see anything unless it's 2 miles high. And yet they have everyone believing it's 8 inches per mile squared. And I just, it's nonsensical, because it can't be possible if those distances have to be covered. I mean, you can't even get an answer, like, because your maths is stupid. But no, it isn't. It's absolutely undeniable that those two distances have to be covered to prove the globe. There's no way around it. Oh, isn't there? And they come up with some mathematical equation that makes no sense. And so there you go. There's proof it's 8 inches per mile squared. Well, proof of what? Fucking hell! It's just insane. So anyway, the technology's found, but they need the souls. So then they've got to. They can't just take the souls. They can't just kill everyone and get their souls. So they can. The souls have to be offered or given. So how would you do that? Oh, you'd have to start this whole new generation from the ones, that have bits of the original creator, or the creator somehow was enticed into starting again, thinking, who knows, but this is the crazy possibility I've sort of come to, that maybe the creator started again, thinking that that experiment was over, or whatever. Who knows? I don't know. But it started again. But yet there was a faction of people who knew so much and knew that this deception was a way they could win these, or gain these souls that are required for whatever they want to do with them. I don't know. And they have to get everything in place from the point of where it started. Perhaps they can live forever by drinking blood of children, or whatever they seem to have done. I don't know. I don't know the answer. So there's only theories to make sense of the weirdness in all these different conspiracies that appear to have merit. So there's got to be a reason why all these things happen, the way they're happening. It's just, and you seem to get hints of bits and leads, some put in place, because if you had hundreds, or I don't know, thousands of years, or generational of people affiliated with your plan, or the way this plan has to work, it's a narcissistic way to function, and especially in a big outfit, which you need, unless you could clone, brainwash, which again, things that have talked about, people in power, change rules and persuade people by, obviously, if a big bang, no creator, an explanation of existence, is a so-called proof to deny plausibility, which is a denial of, not plausibility is a favourite for governments. But if you can have a company that expels absolute nonsense, the best movie-making outfit in the world, the highest paid, which is NASA, and make up stories, to brainwash the things that you need, or to claim as proofs to help along the story, so that people have no faith, give up, turn to, there's no consequences, or life has no meaning. You're going to get depression, people doing things to excess because it means nothing, because that's the way it's been drummed into people. Turn words, it's like the law, and all the words that say one thing, where the average person has no understanding of the words you think mean one thing, mean the opposite. It's, if it's for the people, the law, the system of law is, and judgment is based upon reality. And why aren't we educated to understand that? Like, of all the things to be educated about, financial systems and the law and how things work in life, really, which we come to find out, if you're lucky enough, that we've been taught nothing. We've been deceived for generations. Our parents were deceived, and it's evil as evil it can be. But now, remembering all this is obviously just me making up a fiction to for an idea for a movie, but it's a good movie. We're possibly living in it. I don't know. It's crazy, and everyone who's got the time to think and look through all these different platforms and hear from different people, that some people are, unfortunately for them, are really easy to read as tellers of non-truths, tellers of fictional stories, because the truth somehow is, if a lie is being told in an exceptionally good way to make it believable, it really does have to be believable. Because I don't know what anyone else is like, when someone's telling a story and then they tell that story somewhere else and you hear it again and it's different, because you pick up glitches in stories, like you sort of in your head, you're sort of having you're making a picture of the story that's being told, and then when something doesn't make sense, or was it, well, hang on, how did you get from A to B? Wouldn't you just, your story doesn't align with what you've said previously? How did that happen? And that's how lies are picked out. This is a small example. There's many ways, but not necessarily. Anyway, what I'm getting at is, you don't know whether you wouldn't have somebody in power doing something that you needed to be done without being challenged or anyone questioning, unless they're exceptionally good at doing that, a really good actor. So it appears that people in important positions that are talking bullshit, obviously, or it's either it's deception at its best. Like the political maneuvers. What happened with Biden and having Kamala, and how Trump looked so good, and he's going to do all the things people wanted, because anything was better than the insanity that was happening before him. And now he's just jumped on the pro-Israel side against the massacre of an entire people. It's crazy. And Elon Musk is in there, doing all these good things, but yet to fucking say confirm that the Earth is flat, which I thought or hoped. That's what I hoped. Thinking of this is Trump's our last chance, because if the others get in, we're doomed. The world's over, because everyone's aligning with their way of thinking. In every country it appears. So to me, and probably to many in America, that was the same thought. Got him in power, and then we've got Elon Musk in there, who's got all this technology of interfacing with things that can do everything we do, and just doesn't really appear to be as factual or have the ability to have achieved what he has and what he does with the time he's doing it, and to do all these things in a day that he does. There's some people that can do amazing things, but I think he's been found out on some computer game that he did, that he said he was one of the best, and yes, he was found out to be selling absolute porkies, and by the crowd that who know their stuff about what he was doing. I don't. It's what I've been told, but it seems to be backed up by a story I heard. It's Candace Owens. She's good. I think she's an amazing, genuine truth seeker or truth teller, and she's full on Christian, which has to be good if you believe in the Creator, because it seems to be that it's those that are against creation, which is deception, because it's not a globe, we're flat, and I know how crazy that sounds, but it is. If you spend enough time looking at all the things as our evidence, instead of just wiping it as insanity, you'll find the truth there, and that's the start, and then it begins. But it's just why, and it's got that feeling of close to the end, how things have been revealed, and I don't know. I don't know. It's almost it feels almost pointless, but then there's some talk of the power of positive, every thought, which has puts out an electrical signal. The thoughts, or our together as the humans, with the power of our thinking positive, that energy is apparently what is hard for the evil to break. But again, unless you know what is true and what isn't true, and from what angle, maybe some things that are truth are being portrayed by those who you think are trying to expose the truth, but in fact doing the opposite, and vice versa. Because it's deep, it has to be to have worked its way to almost total global balance of this insanity. The WEF and the things they're doing with the pedophilia of not being a sick thing, and trying to turn boys into girls, and girls, and yet that's completely, it's definitely not was no good for the future of humanity. If males and females aren't making children, through love, or I mean, that's how I see it. If you're not able to have a loving relationship with the opposite sex and bear children, what are you? What are you? What's your intentions? I mean, if everyone was like you, and that appears to be how it's almost how they want it, because they're trying to get as many children without the knowing any experience in life or understanding of anything. And pushed into the direction. It's okay, it's okay. And then they've had their bits and pieces removed, and you know that they can never be put back. What makes them them? It's like, it's crazy. Everything's crazy, but I don't know. You have some thoughts like this, and then you don't know where to send them because everyone thinks you're crazy. Maybe you are, but maybe I am, but I'm not as crazy as a lot of the stuff that's going on. Anyway, that's part one.